go, what your ambitions are, what your goals are, and especially in these times of turbulence, right? So as companies change, as companies go out of business, new companies will come along. You kind of have to think about how you're developing skill sets over the course of your career to be able to be flexible. I mean, you talked about people having 3, 4, 5 careers now over the course of their lifetime. I would say it's actually probably going to be, for today's young people, it's going to be actually many more than that. Probably 10, 15, maybe 20 careers. And you think about also, people are living longer lives, they're living healthier lives. The working life is going to extend, but people are going to be thinking about education, and not just sort of at the beginning of your career, but how you kind of constantly are sort of reskilling and adapting to new technologies and new work. Yeah, I would completely agree with both of my colleagues there. And
okay.
Coyote's back, so we can.
Yeah, I'm back. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry.
Back to the moderator.
The internet just went off. Okay, so we have a few more minutes before we open it up for people to ask questions. Professor Ward, I wanted to direct this question at you. So what are we seeing in terms of competition? Is competition a bit more steep now than ever, or is it people being careful to step on each other's toes or something? What are we seeing about competition?
Yeah, and I think that's an interesting question, right? Because if you think about competition as firms competing for people's transactions, right? So you're competing for a customer to buy your product or service, and you can think about a lot competitive advantage and how firms gain competitive advantage, and you see this at the moment of transaction, right? So when somebody buys a product or service from you, from your company, you have advantage in that transaction over all your other competitors, right? But one of the other factors there is that customers always have the option to do nothing, right? To buy, not to buy from anybody, right? So to use their money on something else or keep it. And I think what happens in a time like this pandemic is what we're seeing is that third option of customers not buying anything is an increasingly attractive option in a lot of circumstances, right? So people are not necessarily buying goods and services that they had before because they want to conserve money, conserve resources, or they need it for kind of other types of services. So in that instance, when that number of customers for your market goes down, then what does that do? That drives more competition, right? Because everybody's competing harder to gain that transaction, to gain that transaction with a customer. And so, people will need to compete harder to do that, either offering additional products, services, reducing prices, and things like that. So I think that's what we're seeing. I think in a lot of those markets where we've seen reduced demand, then you're seeing increased competition. At the same time, we've got other markets where demand has spiked, and people in those markets don't have to worry about pricing and things like that. In fact, they can increase prices because that demand has surged in that area, and they're spending all their time trying to keep up with demand. It's like the COVID pandemic has this disruptive effect where it increases some markets and decreases others, and you have different impacts on competition there.
Tony and Corey, can I just ask you guys to also jump in real quick, because we have just a few minutes and then we need to open it up for people to ask questions. So Tony, I'll let Tony go first. Tony, what's your opinion on the state of competition now? I mean, you can speak from your own perspective as an HR person. Looking at are companies competing for the best talents at this point in time? And then I'll come back to you, Korede, regarding operations.
Thank you very much, Kyle. The beautiful thing about talent is that when you're classified as talent, and I really need to just break that down. So a talent is somebody who is obviously performing on top of their game, who is bringing so much value to the organization, and that value is recognized not just internally, but also externally. Otherwise, you would not be classified as talent in the real sense of the word. So, for example, if my company classified me as talent, but then other players in the industry didn't know me, didn't think I was talent, I would not be in a position to negotiate top dollar for my skills. So if anything, employees need to be a bit more intuitive, a bit more deliberate and strategic in terms of how they position themselves. If you're doing such a great job in your organization, how come other people in the industry don't know about you? When you need to leave and you're considering changing jobs, who is going to poach you? Who is going to approach you for a conversation? How are you going to be able to negotiate a better compensation for yourself? So the only way an employee can win in that sense is when they are very, very deliberate about how they position themselves internally and externally of their organization. Then it would be easier for you to ride it out, because when there is a downturn like we're experiencing right now, people are being let go of. But the truth about it is that the most talented people that are considered as top 10 or the top 2%, they would never be let go of. So the question is, are you in that top 2%? Are you in that top 10%? They would never be let go of. And then if you're in that top 2% or top 10% as classified in your organization, do the other organization who are competitors to your organization know that you're top 2, you're top 10? That's the only way you can be able to command top dollar for your skills. So it's very important that we get a bit more deliberate about managing our careers. Now, organizations would also try to, as much as possible, invest in employer branding, because the question is, what's going to make me choose, what's going to make your employment offer more attractive? So if a candidate was considering 4 employment offers, why would they come to you? And that's something one needs to continue to ask. Why would they choose you? Why would they want to work for you? What do you have? Is it your culture? Is it the benefits? Is it the environment? Is it the type of work you offer? Is it the type of experience? Is it the pedigree of the name? All of these things have to be carefully thought about and put down into a fantastic value proposition that you constantly sell to candidates. So when you're talking about working in an organization like that, for example, you're going to be talking about the kind of care they give, the kind of focus they have on growing people's careers, the kind of interesting work environment, interesting work content, stretch assignments. Those are the kind of things you're going to hear when you're thinking about employer branding, to the extent where you're trying to win the war on talent.
Okay, Korede, before Korede gets on, I'll just say that we're opening it up for questions. So please leave your questions in the questions column. And if you, I'm not sure if it will be appropriate to have people speak, but if you raise up your hand, we might be able to take 1 or 2 questions, but they have to be very short. So please raise up your hands. And when I see the hands, I'll reach out to you. Korede, speak in terms of, operations, suppliers, talk about suppliers, especially at this point in time. What's competition? What's competition looking like, especially with the COVID-19 situation?
Okay, just before I speak to that, I would need to put Tony on the spot and request a personal consultation. I've got a goal to be recognized in the top 1% of my industry. We need to come together and craft a strategy for me. So you don't have to reply now.
I'll get 10% of that. I'll get 10%.
It's pro bono, Coyote. We haven't negotiated any rates and all that. It's pro bono. So, Coyote, look, to be honest with you, like the professor had said earlier, all we are seeing now are normal events accelerated, or normal business events accelerated by the pandemic. And I've also alluded to that earlier. So you'd find that competition, suppliers, buyers, producers and all that remains the same, still follows the age-old laws of economics or laws of supply and demand. What we would see now is that people, Porter's 5 forces come to mind here as well. So you find that while some businesses are under intense pressure and they need longer periods to pay their suppliers, if they are big enough, some of their big suppliers will probably also, who have the financial muscle to support longer windows for or longer inventory periods, would also support them. But you find that businesses that are not big enough might not be able to encourage their suppliers. Now the poll is distracting. You'll find that businesses that are not big enough might not be able to convince suppliers to wait longer to be paid. But besides that fluctuation, pretty much not much will change. But of course, there are industries that are dead. So suppliers and buyers in that industry no longer exist. So you find that the participants in those sectors have migrated to other sectors and all that. But for active sectors or sectors that are going to emerge, we'll still find that the laws of supply and demand would be in effect. And Porter's 5 forces would also continue to be seen to be active. If your customers can't buy what you're selling, they will look for alternatives. If your suppliers can fix price, if they can make prices, and you are a price taker, then they will connive against you and raise prices, and on and on. So the competitive forces would remain the same. Pretty much that.
I forgot I was muted. So while we are waiting for questions to come in, because I've not seen anybody raise their hands, while we are doing that, I would just ask Professor Ward, so what should businesses that are under intense pressure right now, what should they be doing? What are your thoughts, as regard particularly small businesses? Because in our own climate, small businesses are going through quite a number of challenges, but they also have huge opportunity also to, to innovate and then, increase productivity. What should we be telling small businesses? I took a quick glance at your book. By the way, Professor Ward just launched, he co-authored another a book recently. It's in his background, if you check out his background. So, Professor Ward, what should we be telling them?
Yeah, and I think there are two aspects to that, right? So one is in the survival of the business, right? Because it's okay for a business to be thinking in the long term, and they should be thinking long term, but they're only going to make it to the long term if they survive in the short term. So there's obviously a lot of things businesses need to do, as Toyin was talking about, especially in terms of the talent and the people in the organization, and to the extent they can, to be able to sort of keep those people, optimize those people, and optimize the talents that those people bring. But at the same time, there are lots of businesses which are in the situation where that talent isn't able to be used because their business has been so disrupted, and they just for whatever reason physically can't operate during the pandemic. And so obviously businesses need to kind of think about that survival through this period. But beyond that, and really gets to the heart of your question, I think, is how they think about how the world will change because of the pandemic, and what are some of these lasting changes that are going to be as a result of the pandemic. Is business going, for their particular industry or sector, going back to business as usual, right? Business as it was before the pandemic, or are there going to be fundamental changes to the way business operates, to the way their markets are structured, to what the demand is going to be for those particular products or services that the business is doing. And so to really kind of think beyond where we are right at this moment, where we are today, to how your markets are going to change, how your competitors are going to change, what other competitors are coming in, what other ways are your customers solving their problems, which your company has in the past provided solutions for. And so to be able to sort of break that down, to be able to kind of think about those changes and how that market is going to look going forward, and the other opportunities, like the related opportunities that are created because of the pandemic and because of those changing structures of those markets and competition, is, now is the time for companies to be thinking about that and starting to think about how they're going to meet those needs and take advantage of those opportunities. And especially as Toyin was just talking about with talent, right? So there may be, those highly talented people that you have in your organization, which you can't use right now in their previous jobs, but those might be people that you can use those talents to kind of think about and start building capabilities for those markets that are going to emerge post-pandemic.
I just wanted to also mention before we get into all the questions. I've not seen any questions. So Professor Ward's book is Strategic Management from Theory to Practice. I think you should take a look at it. It's a very good book. It's written by Alan Emerson and Professor Ward, and it's available on Amazon. I think you should be able to find it on Amazon. So having said that, I think you should have the result of the polls shortly. Anyway, so Korede, what's your thoughts about what businesses should be doing right now?
Sorry, Kayode, you broke off badly.
Oh, apologies. So I said, what's your take on what entrepreneurs should be doing, business owners should be doing right now?
Again, there's no silver bullet. I think entrepreneurs, business owners should keep their eyes on the ball. They should continue to look for opportunities. They should pay attention to external realities. They shouldn't just ignore them. Pay attention to external realities, and also pay attention to their internal realities. Ask themselves introspective questions. Besides laying off my people, what else can I do with them? If you have highly talented people and all that, see if you can co-create new businesses with them. Explore new models of doing business. Like one of my mentors would say, owning 100% of nothing is worse off than owning 10% of something. So there's nothing wrong if you as an employer, a small business owner realizes that by sharing cost of it, by entering a new market and sharing the cost of entering that market with 2 or 3 of your staff, essentially making them directors in that new business and all that. If you realize that might be a good market entry or strategy, then embrace it. People are smart. Don't attempt to think that they are not. So don't try and play games with your staff or with your customers. You'd also find that businesses are also exploring. So like our business, for example, we no longer see our vendors, our key vendors, as mere vendors. We see them as partners. And in some instances, we actually start a new business. We tell them we've got the customers for this business. We've got certain assets to deliver on this business, but you have the balance of the assets. How about we go into a joint venture? And you see that that's increasingly becoming acceptable in different industries. So I think small business owners should be amenable to all of those things. And agility is important. As soon as you see that your major or your main revenue source is being challenged or is being contested, I'm going to say this at the risk of sounding like an unbeliever. Don't go to church and pray, right? ask yourself critical questions and do something about the situation. And if prayers then becomes part of what you need to do, then by all means, please do it. But don't sit down there and blame God for things you can do something about. And I say that with every sense of modesty and responsibility. So by and large, creativity would be required. Thinking about old problems in new ways would be an awesome way to go. Being open to or being amenable to new ways of doing things is also interesting. Bounce off ideas of people. Trust your associates to also come up with good ideas and all that. Run idea competitions in your business and adequately compensate people who come up with ideas that you're going to run with. The story of Twitter comes to mind. Twitter started out life as a podcasting platform, and things were not working out. And then they pivoted. The idea to pivot on came from a staff competition, and so it's nothing really new. It's just that we need to be amenable to doing things that way. And by and large, get Professor Ward's textbook. I think it's going to have a lot of nuggets on how to proceed and all that. And we also have access to Professor Ward. If not directly, we have access to him through Coyote, and I'm sure that he would gladly provide free consultation. Sorry, Professor, for putting you on the spot, but yeah, I think it's what it is.
Free consultation. I don't know about that one.
That's fine.
I'm beginning to be very wary of the extent to which you're asking for free consultation on this call is quite alarming.
I'm just I drive very hard bargains.
Quite interested. I have a certificate in negotiation. Let's talk.
Okay, we should. Who knows? We might co-create a business.
Okay,
so I was going to jump in.
Yes,
okay. Go ahead, Carmen.
Yes, I was going to allow you to jump in, but I wanted to add something to it. So there's a question in here that says, what type of structure should a school owner put in place moving into the COVID pandemic era? So maybe you respond and then you answer that, and then I will go back to Professor Ward and then to Korede.
Well, again, I never, ever lay claims to being a business strategist. I'm an HR professional and I love to stick to what I know. But then again, I'm very happy that we have quite a number of brains in the house who might be able to provide better quantitative response on structures that a school owner can put in. But my first take would be that in terms of if you think of structures in two aspects, the first one would be in terms of how you provide learning for your students. Well, online learning has come to stay. I want to believe so, because during the last 5 months, students have been forced to pick up those skills. It would be a sheer waste if when we get back to school and as a school owner, you're not incorporating some form of online learning along with regular classroom type learning. It would be a sheer waste, really, because the kids have gotten to such an extent that they are getting better, running Google searches, doing their research and all of that. We don't want those skills to go to waste. So I would say, think of how you can incorporate that, because again, let's think beyond survival. Let's think of value add. Yes, we've survived up until now. We're going to reopen. There are federal government guidelines that would cover reopening schools, and I'm sure as a school owner, you would be compliant with those. But then what else can you do to assuage the fears of parents? So for example, I've got 3 kids. When they talk about reopening the school, I'm happy on the one hand, I get them out of my hair, but on the other hand, I'm also very concerned about their safety. So if you're to be a school owner that is bringing more to the table, how can you engineer a conversation with parents to, get them to express their fears, and then you can address each and every one of those fears in terms of what you have planned for them. And then also for your teachers, I would like to think that the era of online learning has forced them to learn a number of skills that they didn't have before now. So how do we as a school, how do we continue to harness that? How do we continue to find new ways of infusing that into how we go and navigate into the future? Because again, we've done 5 months of this. We didn't think we could do this. We've done it already. What else can we bring to the table that would bring far more value? And if that value results in cost savings in terms of school fees, hey, please sign me up. Let me know your school. I'd love to come. So it's very important that you're really just talking to your customer, because in this instance, your customers are the parents. They would have a number of concerns. Try and put structures in place that addresses those concerns, that gives you an idea of what those concerns are on, and how you can help show that, again, you're feeling it as I feel for school owners, I know it's been a very, very tough one, but up until now, it would be extremely great to see a school owner that is thinking of how they can bring more value to the table and harness the skills that the kids have learned so far at the sheer pain of their parents, if I might add.
I thought you said you had no idea about strategy.
I honestly don't. No, to be quite honest, I know that by the time the good prof and Corridor would give their own view, this is just me speaking as a customer. So, I've got 3 kids and I can tell you where my pain points are. So if I find a school that is speaking to those pain points, I'll be, but then in terms of how then they continue to make money, I can tell you for free that I'm no strategist when it comes to that.
Right. Bukola, you need to pay some money, because that was free consultation and then you heard directly from a customer. So you need to pay something to me later on. Professor Ward.
No, I think Toyin is right on point there. Because if we think about, so at Lehigh University, where I am, this whole pandemic has obviously caused just as much disruption, and we moved to completely online classes, and now we're at this point where we're mostly online, but we have some in-person classes. But I think we're really kind of thinking about the future and what this is going to look like post-pandemic. And I think one of the things that it's really doing is forcing us to think about really what value is added by meeting together, right? Where is that value created in meeting together in the classroom? And as Toyin said, that I think a lot of the online element is going to remain, and it's going to become a valuable part of the educational process, even when we can meet together all the time sort of freely, because you can kind of think about what content, what is online education really good at and really good at adding value to, but then what is in person really adding value to, and the in-person interaction, the bringing the students together in the classroom with the teacher, the faculty member, sort of in the classroom, that can create an environment where a lot of learning can happen, but it's going to be slightly different, probably format for a lot of schools and a lot of places than it was before, right? So a lot of that, we're in a world now where you can get information about anything through the internet, through online learning. You can get all of that knowledge and all of that information and data sort of outside the classroom, but then inside the classroom, as we're bringing people together for sort of discussions and solving problems and critical thinking and those sorts of things, which can really happen much better in the classroom, whether it's discussions, whether it's labs, whether it's experiential learning. And so I think that the structure of education is going to change quite significantly post-pandemic, and is the pandemic is accelerating that change just as it was is many other changes.
Corridor, what do you think from the operational standpoint?
Look, to be honest, I think the good prof and Toyin have hit the nails on the head. The future is digital, or let me put it this way: the future is going to be hybrid, with digital driving it. I'll be hard pressed to send my kids back to school anytime soon. Like Toyin said, I want to get them out of the house as quickly as possible, but I also don't want them to return to me sick and make me sick, or have to spend money unnecessarily on trying to get them better. So if, for example, the school my kids are going to refuses to continue hybrid, then that will be enough reason for me to want to change who my children's educational service provider is. And from a pure production point of view or process point of view as well, you find that businesses are no longer scheduling unnecessary travel. If it can be done. So like in the industry I'm working again, when we are designing new solutions and all that, usually we'll fly in expatriates from overseas who spend weeks here in South Africa with us and doing everything they could have done over. They don't need access to anything physically that they don't have access to remotely. Just before the pandemic, and I'm sure the pandemic will accelerate that, we had to cut down on some of those needless travel and cost. So going forward, you'll begin to see a lot of that as well. So for a school, that would mean that you might not actually require for your teachers to be physically present in Abuja, for example, for a school situated in Abuja, because majority of the classes will be online anyways. And you only need to bring in those teachers that need to have physical contact with the kids on the days or in the periods that they need to have physical contact. So it's important that if you're not thinking about digital and hybrid now, that you begin to look at that. You might also need to start thinking about getting rid of business units in your business that don't add, that you can do without or that you can outsource. So again, I'm sure that Oluwatoyin would gladly take on your HR processes and manage it and all of that, rather than you having 2 or 3 fully paid HR people in your business. And I'm sure you'll find other areas like that that are not core to your business's performance, that you can actually outsource to people who can do it efficiently and at a cost that is amenable to your bottom line. So again, you need to start to think creatively about everything. Don't do things simply because that's how you inherited or learned to do them. Do them because those are the best ways to bring value to yourself and to the business you're running. I think that'll be all from me for now. Thank you, Kayode.
Kayode, if I might just jump in, because
she asked for 2 professional human resource certification that she should pursue.
I think someone is responding to her. Femi Oluwaniro, I think, is responding to her. Thank you, Femi. I was just going to add to the conversation around school and because again, you know, I'm in love with I'm in love with business. I should say that very openly. One of the things that really, for me, it's entrepreneurship, and the fact that it gives you the opportunity to maximize your talents or even develop new talents. So look at this on past 5 months when we've had to homeschool our kids whilst holding down our full-time jobs and running our side businesses. It's been hectic on parents, and there would have been some gaps. I'm sure if you run a poll with the parents of the kids in your school, they will tell you what their struggles are. Some of the struggles, top of them for me, would be just ensuring that the kids get the work done, you know, and they're on the computer, extended hours to the computer, but just ensuring that they get the work done. That up until the time, I was very, 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 very interested in having some person who was going to be like a tutor, but I don't mind it being online. So my point is, could you look at other ways of generating revenue? Because to be quite honest, most people, COVID-19 is still there, coronavirus hasn't gone away, and we still have to be careful. But then if you used to offer a home tutoring service in your school, could you make it virtual? Could you find innovative ways of ensuring that you get the kids to even improve whilst they're still learning online? Because to be quite honest, I mean, and I'm trying to be an honest Nigerian, I didn't spend all of my 24 hours with the kids. Yes, I would spend a better part of it, but then I have to make up for it at night doing my work. And for parents who said, you know what, whatever you turn in, you turn in, we would not lie. The skills level of the kids dropped. It didn't pick up. It dropped during this period because they weren't having that dedicated time and attention to learn. So how can we make up for the gap? How can we make up for the gap in knowledge that they clearly have? Because they haven't been studying as much. And many a time they were playing games, changing their wallpaper, chatting with themselves. We all know the drill. So what can you do to bring more value to the table? What can you do to bring more value in such a way that you can create alternate source of income within your business, in your structure, without an additional cost? That's where I think as a school owner, I would love to focus on, because you do have to find ways to make new money within the same business and in your value chain, without necessarily now having to open a restaurant along with your school, because that's not what you do. You provide educational services.
I'm going to jump in for 2 minutes,
Yeah.
or even lesser. I couldn't find the hand raising button, so I tried to do it physically. Look, so Tony, I'm sorry that it was such a painful experience. In my case, it's slightly different, for two key reasons, or maybe three key reasons. One of them is that I was able to get away with having to do the teaching duties. My wife took over 100%, so that could be one of the reasons why it was easy and sweet for me. But on a more serious note, what we also found, and which could help Bukola here, is that what we found is that in my kids' case, the teacher schedules an 8 o'clock meeting with them every morning, and goes through their schedule. So the schedule is sent on Friday or during the weekend. On Monday, she goes through the schedule for the entire week with them. And then every morning, she goes through the day's schedule with them. Then once every 3 or 4 weeks, she has a meeting with us where she tells us about our kids' performance, where she needs help and all of that, and gives us feedback, you know, and things like that. Then we are involved in that. The submission, where they submit their turning their work, there's a requirement that the parent agrees that they've looked at the work and the kid has actually done the work that they need to do. So we got involved in that way. Then they have tests, I think once a month or once every 6 weeks. Again, I'm not sure, because I only get occasionally invited to these things by my wife. So they have sessions that, so for their tests, they send us parents a study guide to help the kids prepare. And it's not intense. These are things that we'll cover in 30 minutes, 1 hour per subject and all that. So it wasn't that intense, but that we felt we couldn't do it and all of those kind of things. The sacrifice we have to make on our part is to then schedule the kids into our schedule. So on the days when I need to help my kid with schoolwork, I block that 1 or 2 hours away from my work calendar so that I don't get invited into meetings at work. And I make that clear to people who reporting to me as well, that they're allowed to make such accommodations. The most important thing is that don't lie. Don't spend that time doing what you're not supposed to do and all that, but just ensure that, it's our reality. We are now home with the kids, so we need to acknowledge that reality and all of that. So if there is a measure of engagement with the parents, I think there might be a measure of increased success or throughput. Now, on the offside of that is that I've got friends who complain that, look, we're paying so much in school fees. Now we are sharing duties with the teachers. Yeah. So, of course, I'm sure if the school offers me a discount, I'll take it, right? I'll take it because I'm doing part of the work that teachers should do in any case. So it's important that you find that balance too in running your school. In as much as you are engaging the parents, they need to be remunerated. They need to be encouraged for the sacrifice, for the support they are providing you. So you can deliver that in any way that you find amenable to the business and to your target customers. So those are some of the direct nuggets from my experience.
Okay.
Thanks.
Thank you so much. Before we go, I would like Professor Ward to just tell us, give us a I don't know, maybe like a quick summary, synopsis of the book, so that for those who might be wondering what's this book and all that, because you took time out of your time to also share with us. I think it's also important for us to also learn about your book, and maybe that might even spur us to get a copy. So, Professor Ward.
Well, thank you for that opportunity. But what I want to actually say to as we close is that, I think the people on this call, if you are a young person in Africa and specifically in Nigeria, you're some of the most important people in the world, in my view right now, right? Because I think what you're seeing is, if we look over the last 30 years, right, we've seen the huge economic boom in Southeast Asia, right? The Southeast Asian nations have really accelerated, grown, economically developed tremendously over the last 30 years. I think over the next 30 years, where we're going to see that is in Africa. And, if you've got a country like Nigeria, which is a very entrepreneurial country, then the opportunities are there for you, right? That's where you're going to have more opportunity than probably anywhere else in the world over the next 30 years. So those opportunities there, look for them, see them, take advantage of them, and move forward, because you're the people that are going to change the world and really move the continent of Africa, your country, and the world forward over the next 30 years. So just as Coyote said, this book really gives a whole overview of strategy, right? So how you think about the whole notion of competitive advantage, how you think about competing in any market, and how you really think about the future, think about those changes that are happening in the future, and how you position your firm to become resilient to those changing conditions. And you're going to see, as I said, in Africa, more changes there than probably anywhere else in the world over the next 30 years. Yes, the book is there. You can get hold of it from Amazon or other places probably, but also the website up there that I've put on top there, which is www.strategicmanagement.business, is a website that goes along with the book. It has a lot of videos on there that we've talking about some of the content. So even if you don't buy the book, which is more than fine, you can still get a lot of that content from those videos there. My email address is on there on the website also, so you can contact me via email. Please feel free to connect via LinkedIn or something. That would be tremendous. And so if you have follow-up questions from this seminar, please feel free to go to the website, find my email address, email me, or send me a message via LinkedIn. So thanks very much. It's been great joining you all today, and I wish you all the best in your businesses. I see that from the poll that this pandemic is impacting businesses tremendously there, just as it is here. We're all struggling to find our way through this and really kind of thinking about the future and the opportunities that it creates. It creates disruption, but it also creates opportunities. And I'm more of the person who's more optimistic and is looking at those opportunities and where those are coming and how you take advantage of those. So good luck.
Thank you so much, Professor Ward. Tony, would you like to say something for the, you'd like to give us the last word? I know we have just 1 minute. We have just 1 minute. So if you and Korede can share and just say something, that'll be fine.
Okay, so my last thoughts on this would be, let's focus on building resiliency. We don't know what's going to happen in the future. Things are very uncertain. A small event, what seems to be a small event, can be a catastrophe for an individual if they are unprepared, if they are not ready. It can be a catastrophe for a business. So whether you're a business or an individual, please look now and build resiliency in your business, in your career, such that when things happen and the ground shift, you're still able to redirect, to pivot, to continue to stay relevant, to make money, and continue to add value to your clients or your customers.
Korede.
I was going to give my 1 minute to Tony in lieu of the training she's going to organize for me. But since I collaborate, I'll go for it. I think I'd like you guys to remember me with this. I will take this with you on your journey. Please stay curious. Curiosity would open doors for you. Don't just accept the norm for what it is. Ask yourself questions. Why is the norm the norm? And keep building, your career, your lives, your side gig, your position on the job and all that. And stay smart. That just requires continuous investment in what you know and what you can do. And again, the internet has leveled access to knowledge. If you want to be, and I'm being serious here, if you want to become a space engineer, I'm certain that by the time you do 1 or 2 Google searches, you'll find a curriculum that can prepare you to becoming a space engineer. Whether or not you have the attitude or the the capabilities to learn to become a space engineer then becomes a differentiator. So stay smart, invest in yourself, kill excuses. Excuses doesn't do anything but rob you of your dreams. So kill excuses and just do your best. There's nothing wrong if after you've tried your best, you fail, you can rest knowing that you've done your absolute best. But make sure your best is actually your best. Don't insult yourself. So please stay curious, keep building, and stay smart. And Kayode, thanks for inviting me. I've had a very good time today. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Korede. Before I leave, before we come to an end, I'd like to share this with everyone. So a friend of mine defined value. He said value equals the quality of product plus the quality of service divided by fees/price plus ASO value. I'll say that again. Value equals quality of product plus quality of service divided by fees/price plus ASO value, where ASO value is the amount of inconvenience you put on your clients. So the higher your ASO value, the lower the value you deliver. Thank you so much, everybody. I've enjoyed this thoroughly. Professor Ward, thank you so much. Truly appreciate you. For everybody who does not know, Professor Ward was my associate dean at Lehigh University. Professor Ward is an amazing man. You should reach out to him. Definitely reach out to him. Korede Asuni, thank you so much for coming. He's my friend. Otherwise, I would have given him a knock on the head and probably called a family meeting. He did not attend this. Toyin, it was a pleasure meeting you. I'll probably find some time to meet you in person. Thank you so much, everybody. You've been an awesome audience. So please look out for our next Fluid Hangout session or edition next month. We do it every month, and we do it in conjunction with Lead Space. Lead Space provide co-work space. They're in Lagos. They have this fantastic center that I and my team used for a while. It's called Hub1. We're also supported also by MSME Standards. You should check out msmestandards.com. And my name is Kayode Ajayi Smith. I represent Smith's Work Limited. Smith's Work is a management consulting firm based in Lagos. Thank you very much, everyone. Have a lovely, lovely weekend. Bye-bye.
Bye. Thank you so much for having us, Kayode.
Thank you very much, Kayode. Thank you very much, everybody. All the best.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.